Hey everybody, there's that sound again. The sound of what, Steve? Oh,
Shift,
wow. I can't hear
Father.
you. You cut out. Start over. What was that?
Oh, yeah. I don't know. Okay. This is the intro to our podcast, Yesshift. We're playing Yes music in the intro. We talk about Yes, we're father son team. I'm the son, Steven. You're the dad, Dan. And we've got a few birthdays and anniversaries to talk about. We decided to do this all in one go because well, I know on my part, I've been traveling this week and this weekend as well. So we figure we talk about all of these here. So today is Bill Bruford's 75th birthday. Tomorrow is Rick Wakeman's, and May 20th is Jay Schellen's birthday. And we've also got other stuff to talk about, like, for example, songs from Tsongas uh, turned 20 this week. The footage, the
That's
concert,
crazy.
anyway. And yeah, so to start off, I kind of wanted to start with a Mother's Day anecdote, if you'll indulge me for a bit.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. And I honestly, I didn't know you're going to move so fast. I put Bill's picture up first, and then you named all the other stuff. So we'll show everybody. We got some great photos
uh,
of everybody and the product and everything. But give us the anecdote for Mother's Day.
right. So I think one of these things I already told you, and the other thing I haven't, but uh, I managed to find time that day to watch some footage that's on YouTube of the John Anderson Mother's Day concert from 1996, which was also May 12th that year. So Um, and I saw a couple comments from a couple of different people who mentioned the whirlwind, and I was like, "Oh yeah, there was a whirlwind during that concert in that footage. I forgot." And there's one during "And You and I." So you see John being like, "Oh, complete in the sight of seeds of life with you. It's a whirlwind," and then you see the camera was in the audience, so the camera points to like the whirlwind that goes on for like a minute.
Oh,
Um,
wow. I didn't know about this. Ah, something's wrong with the signal. Steven's frozen. He got caught up in the whirlwind and the seeds of life with you. Steve, jump out and jump back in. I'll keep everybody busy until then. So we got some great stuff that we're covering. Oh, I think Steve's back. Okay, so
okay.
we lost you during the whirlwind example during a you and I.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, right after you said the camera caught it for about a minute going on there on the site. So obviously it was an outdoor concert. I hope.
Yeah, it was. It was. And when it was released on a CD as part of a box set later, the artwork included like a green field with a whirlwind on it, like
Oh,
a
interesting.
fun illustration. So yeah, it's kind of funny the timing of me cutting out while mentioning the whirlwind, but yeah. So that's one thing. The other thing, which, the other thing I do think I texted you about, I had breakfast with my mom at Denny's that day. And at the table next to ours, there was a man and a woman. I think they might have been around your age, but I heard like on
Old
the
people.
guy. I mean, I wasn't going to say it like that, but I mean, but yeah,
Well, you did text me and you said, "Hey, there's an older guy at the table next to you." You did say that, and that's
right,
okay. I'm
right.
older compared to you.
Yeah, and so the guy's phone, I could hear roundabout, and I turned to him and I was like, "Oh, is that Yes?" I'm a huge Yes fan, and he's like, "Oh yeah." And I asked like, "What tour is that from?" And he showed the video, and it was from the Denver concert on the Union tour.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, and I think after that he like listened to a live version of Africa by Toto. So it was quite a coincidence. Like I'm just out here having breakfast with my mom for Mother's Day, and then all of a sudden hearing Yes music on the
Yeah,
side. So
in
yeah,
Silmar, California.
yeah, this is in Silmar. Yeah.
Yeah. And I honestly can't picture the Denver show. Like when I think of the Union video, I either think of Clips and Yes Years or the full length thing from Japan.
Yeah, well, Yesshift does these clips from the Denver show. The clips of Shock to the System and Awaken that are on there are from that concert.
Okay, cool. It's
Yeah.
been a while.
Right. Yeah, so like that was a fun thing that happened. But getting into the birthdays, so first off, we have Bill Bruford, and he posted on his YouTube channel. He continues to have things curated there, and there was a cool Earthworks live video from 2002. This was titled "The Wooden Man Sings and the Stone Woman Dances," and I think listening to this, it kind of reminds me that I really enjoy being able to hear Bill play against wind instruments. When he's accompanied by like wind instruments, and also in that jazzy atmosphere. So what are your thoughts on Earthworks in general, Dad? That whole project that Bill did was a huge chunk of his career.
Yeah, I loved that as well for the same reason. It's a whole sort of departure from what a lot of people know him from, stuff that's more, I'm going to say, electronic, whereas that is so much more like organic and so much more in the wheelhouse to the music he loves that's close to his heart, going back to jazz and everything. I remember him saying years ago when he joined Yes, he thought he was joining a jazz band with Fifth Dimension vocals, type of a thing. And it kind of was at the time, but it's neat because it's a whole different thing, which is great. And his playing's just amazing.
Yeah, definitely. Like jazz is for sure his like main calling, like what he's more drawn to.
Yeah.
So it's cool that. Yeah. I quite like how his channel it can get eclectic, bouncing from that to King Crimson and ABWH, all these other things. And speaking of which, I think this was yesterday, you showed me the notification about this, and it was also Robert Fripp's birthday, coincidentally. But there's news of this upcoming King Crimson USA live album, a 50th anniversary edition. So did you listen to this album around the time it came out, or
yes, but
later?
I don't really recall it that well, I'm embarrassed to say. And I didn't have time to brush up before we did this. But it makes me want to revisit it and maybe even buy this.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the listing, what this includes. So this is going to be released on June 28th, the exact 50th anniversary date of the concert. This was in Asbury Park, New Jersey. And
so wait, first of all, I love that music from 50 years ago is still so relevant that it's not just relevant as in people are listening to it, but re-releasable, if that makes sense. Let's face it, over the last 5-6 decades, there's been a lot of music that's come out that will never be re-released or revisited. But whether it's because of fandom or, just groundbreaking music, I think this is really cool that we're talking about music coming out again from 50 years ago. That says something.
Yeah. Yeah. Are the dogs okay?
Yeah. My office door's open and my wife just got a client and the dogs are barking. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Yeah, just making sure.
Yeah, thanks for checking out.
Yeah. So this includes the complete concert taken from the 2013 mix of the concert by Robert Fripp, David Singleton, and Tony Arnold. And yeah, so this I was able to give this a listen, and I really love the way Bill feels very or I don't know if maybe it was because I was listening for it, but his drumming feels very upfront and very prominent, and he's able to do like the fast stuff, and it's just like so fun to listen to.
It's a great mix. And there's a bunch of comments here from Bella. Happy birthday, Bill, and also Rick. We will cover Rick in a moment. Nintendo 64 is king, as is Bill Crimson's. I'm sure he meant work is awesome. Such a talent. Absolutely. Oh yeah, corrected in the next comment. And hey, Bella, cool cat, back at you. And yeah, some of these other things in there we're going to cover as well. So thanks for jumping in. There's a lot to cover here, but go on with King Crimson's 50-year anniversary release.
Right. So another thing that was fun about revisiting USA is, getting to hear John Wetton again.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, can't stress enough like how much he has missed and how great his voice is. And I feel like it wasn't until like when, maybe this is just me, but when I think of his singing, I mainly think of like maybe 80s onward, but that singing was very much present on some of this King Crimson
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The stuff he did with King Crimson was great. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. And this is we're gonna talk a bit about songs from Tsongas in a bit, but I'll ask this now. So hypothetically, if on that 35th anniversary tour, maybe for that one show, if Bill Bruford had been present and he'd been willing to play one song from the set, or maybe something he's played on, something he hasn't, uh, what would be your choices? I can read the track list off for you if that helps.
No, I've got it. I would say I would love to have seen him do long distance run around, but not the acoustic version they did, which I really liked. But it would have been cool to see him do long distance run around because the beat is completely different. Alan's trademark adaptation, once he took over the throne, is completely different, really, from what Bill did, as far as the, not the dun, 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 that part's the same. Dun, 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 that part's the same, but it's totally different. And I'd love to see Bill do that.
Yeah, that was kind of not what I was expecting from you. That was a huge surprise, but that's
That
very
or
cool.
Long Drive. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, yeah, they did do that duet, like he and Alan on the Union tour.
Right.
Like,
That's where that came from, yeah.
yeah. So I was thinking this through. One possibility that I thought of, I was thinking of the stuff he put on in early Yes, and I know there was that Beatles cover, Every Little Thing, but I think
thought of that. Is that your
yeah,
choice?
but so that's not my choice. I think the novelty of having Alan play on that, who he has his Beatles connections, I thought that was cool. So for Bill, um, South Side the Sky did come to mind, but I think ultimately I went with Yours Is No Disgrace. That'd be the end of the first half of the show before the break. And if they want to have him play on something he hasn't played on, maybe participate in the part of Ritual where like everyone's drumming. That's like such an epic part.
Yeah. Well, something I didn't think of that Kevin, here, I'll put his comment up there, that Kevin is suggesting isn't a song from the show, but it would have been cool to add this in with Bill playing.
Oh, Perpetual Change.
Yeah. That would be epic. I agree.
Yeah, that would be cool because when I think live versions of Perpetual Change, the one on the Yes Songs live album where he has that solo is really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool.
Yeah. So I guess we can I guess we're kind of segueing into Rick, but also at the same time talking about this upcoming re-release of Fragile. Let me just pull up the listing so I have all the details.
And I don't think I have a graphic for that one, but that's okay.
I sent you one.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Boing. There it is.
Right. Yeah. So this is a 2024 super deluxe edition of the Yes masterpiece Fragile, containing an LP of the original analog cut of the album, 4 CDs, which are the original album, the Steven Wilson remix, rarities, and live recordings, and a Blu-ray featuring new mixes by Steven Wilson, including the album in Dolby Atmos and 5.1 mix, DTS HD MA. Renowned audio engineer Bernie Grundman cut lacquers for the set's LP. And I'm looking at the track list here. So CD2 has these remixes and instrumentals. So that would be all the tracks.
When you say instrumentals, do you mean instrumental versions, like run-throughs of the songs on the album before the vocals went on, or or are they different pieces altogether?
Well, they say instrumental mixes, so I imagine that these, being from the Steven Wilson version, are probably the instrumental versions before, or like basically the same tracks without vocals. Okay. The timestamps look pretty much the same as I'm skimming through them.
Okay.
And so then
I just want to interject. I think I'm going to get this because I'm going to say something that people might just throw their hands up in the air, including you. But I've never, to my knowledge, have heard a Steven Wilson remix of anything. And as we talked about with Trevor Rabin recently, I'm not into remixes or remasters. I want to hear how it came out, when it came out, with what was used to record, produce, mix, and master at the time. I'm old-fashioned. But I want to get this so that I could have 2 CD players and go back and forth between the songs and hear the original version, Mr. Wilson's version. I would love to do that.
Okay.
Because I don't know what to expect. I've never heard something and gone, oh, that must be I don't know.
Yeah, I think I've heard bits and pieces here, but like not everything in full. So I'm looking at the Rarities CD. So this includes a Roundabout, the US single edit, a Long Distance Runaround, the US single edit, All Fighters Past, which is a Steven Wilson mix, and is I don't know if you've heard that one, but it's basically an early version of that part of Revealing Signs of God, where it's like, and through the rhythm of moving slowly, or glory to Son of all fighters past. So it's like an early version from that era, basically. Wow. There's an early take of South Side of the Sky, rehearsal take and early mix of Roundabout. Also, Mood for a Day. I'm not sure if that's an alternate version or what. We Have Heaven, full version. South Side of the Sky, early version. These last 2 are Steven Wilson mixes. Long Distance Runaround, Steven Wilson edit. Heart of the Sunrise, Steven Wilson edit. America, the 10.5-minute version. Early rough mix of Roundabout. I remember that was a bonus track on the 2003 re-release, if I remember correctly. And an acapella version of We Have Heaven, Steven Wilson.
Oh, that would be neat. I wonder what the spatial part of the mix is, if it's stereo or 5.1 or what. But that, I would love to hear that. I bet that's neat. That's like the predecessor to Leave It, if you will.
Yeah, and the CD for the final CD on this, which has live stuff, or the first few tracks of these are not live, but the last few are. So 5% for Nothing, alternate version. Heart of the Sunrise, alternate version. Long Distance Runaround / The Fish, alternate version. We listened to that, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Something that's titled The Dean. It's almost 4 minutes long. I kind of wonder if maybe that's a Roger Dean interview or something.
Or tribute, interesting.
America, instrumental. And then these last 3 that I'm listing were recorded live at Academy of Music, New York on February 19th, 1972. So Long Distance Runaround and The Fish, Perpetual Change, and Yours Is No Disgrace. We listened to the alternate version of Long Distance Runaround and The Fish since Official posted it. So what's your take on that version that we heard, Dad?
Well, Bella says my audio is muffled, and I don't know why. But hopefully you folks can hear me. I'll lean in a little bit more. How's this? Just kidding. So at first I couldn't tell a difference until you can hear some layers of Rick's synthesizer that weren't in the original
Yeah.
version. That's the first thing I noticed. And then I heard a little bit of differences in Chris's playing. And then, of course, the outro just sort of stops with them messing around a little bit, which is cool. I love that kind of stuff. There was another difference.
Yeah, like the Shine Deliria Primaturis vocals come in earlier in the fish, and therefore it's shorter, right?
Yeah. That's shorter, and there's not as many base layers on top of each other. I liked it, and I asked Stephen, like we were texting back and forth, and I said, "So what'd you think?" And he says, "I'm not telling you. I'll tell you on the show." So what'd you think?
Yeah, so I probably made you think I was gonna like say something like really shocking, but not really. Like I do enjoy this. It's a nice bit of history. Um, I obviously I prefer the version that we got because we with the fish especially we get a bit more. But yeah, I like this type of stuff where we get to see alternate versions of these tracks. You know, it adds a little something new to the whole thing.
Absolutely. And I want to thank Bella. Bella said, I'm guessing, I don't know if Bella, if you're a man or a woman, maybe a woman. I know women named Bella, but Bella said, I don't think you're on the external mic. And I checked, and Bella's right. I was not. So hopefully I sound a lot better.
Oh
Steve,
yeah,
you were
you
in a
sound
couple.
a lot better now. I
Okay.
don't know
You were in a
what.
couple of meetings with me earlier. Did it sound lame?
I don't. I
He
don't know.
doesn't know. He doesn't
It's been a
listen to me
rough
in
day.
meetings.
Stop asking me stuff. um, but yeah, this and the King Crimson thing are both coming from Burning Shed on the same day, actually, June 28th.
Oh,
Um,
wow. That's
yeah,
interesting.
yeah. So I kind of wonder if there are some fans who overlap between Yes and King Crimson, and I kind of wonder if anyone has that dilemma where it's like, oh, which one do I buy first?
Right. They should offer a package deal for that.
Yeah. That'd be cool. Yeah.
Yeah. 15% off if you buy both. They're related.
Yeah. Or 5% off for nothing.
For nothing.
Yeah. But yeah. So what do you think of? Well, I guess we could talk about Bill's contributions on Fragile, but also Rick's as well, because that was the first Yes album he was on. So go ahead and like do your take on all that.
Oh, wow. Well, so the original, up until Rick's entry to the band, I don't want to take away from those first three albums. They were great. But I really think that Rick joining the band with Fragile really defined the sound and, no pun intended, amplified the spirit of the band's music. You know, everyone says that the spirit of Yes is John and all that, but Rick brought Rick was like an orchestra walking in the door compared to Tony. Not to take away from Tony. No one could have done what Tony did better than Tony, but Rick brought in the Mellotron and the Mini Moogs and just a whole different approach. And if you look at the leap from, what came before Fragile to Fragile, and then the leap from Fragile to Close to the Edge, the absolute pinnacle of progressive rock, I don't know what else to say. There's no other words. I really think, I hope I'm not like overstating it, but I really think Rick's music had that impact,
Yeah, and there are great moments from him on the album. Like,
Yeah.
There's a bit of South Side of the Sky.
Oh, I just love that song. Yeah. And of course, the whole long distance run around, the fish thing, everything. His solo in Roundabout was just like, I remember being like, how old was I when they came out? I was 8, 9. And my older cousin played it for me, and it just blew my mind. And Bill's sound of his drums, I think that was the first Yes album I ever heard. And that, like, you can hear the keys popping on the Hammond organ, and it's just legendary, and I think Rick is a huge reason why that album did so well and sounds the way it does. And I'm synonymous, sorry, with I synonymize Roger's artwork with Rick's contributions. Like they just go together, you know?
Yeah, like switching to a different keyboard sound. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great way to put it. How about
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, I agree. And there's that story he's told about how, like, when he first rehearsed with them, they played a bit of Heart of the Sunrise, and he was like, "Oh, this is so amazing." And
Yeah.
that song, it's just, where do you go from there? Like we knew that they would go. We know in hindsight that they would go to Close to the Edge, but when you're at that fragile period and you do Heart of the Sunrise, it's like, how do you know where to go from there?
Yeah. Yeah. And I wonder how much of it was discussion and how much of it was just let's turn everything on, start playing, and let the magic happen. I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, and Bill is great on that song too.
Yeah.
I think I've said this before, but to me, that feels like one of the more King Crimson-esque sounding Yes songs in a
Oh,
way.
that's interesting. Huh.
Yeah. So another thing we want to talk about songs from Tsongas, because it turned 20 on the 15th. What do you think of Rick's contributions on that? And then we'll go into a question that you posed about the meeting in a bit. But yeah, just
Okay.
overall thoughts on his contributions and the concert in general.
So when I saw the concert, I may have mentioned this before. I know I have to you. I don't know if I've said it on the show, but I saw the concert in San Diego that year. And I was kind of like, it was really good, but it didn't blow me away. And I admit I was going through some stuff in life at the time, and it might have been related to just my overall universe and state of mind.
Mm.
Because when the DVD came out, I'm like, this is the best piece of Yes
Yeah.
that I have, and I still feel that way. It's my favorite concert. I think the performances are impeccable. The acoustic stuff was such a genius thought, and I don't remember feeling that way at the show. So I just love it, and I think Rick's contribution. I love South Side of the Sky. Just blows my mind. Mind Drive. I love that they snuck that in. I wish that it had Siberian Kachoo because it's just one of my favorite Yes songs. And I love the harpsichord solo, in the middle, and just so many aspects of that song. But overall, and Awaken, and it's just a great work overall. And Rick's
Yeah. Well,
contributions are great.
I think Awaken was on the tour before this, but yeah, like
Oh
they
yeah,
did such a great job with that song.
it all runs together for me.
Yeah. Like it kind of feels like that 35th anniversary celebration lasted a few years in a way.
Right. Yeah. Your thoughts
Yeah.
on it?
Yeah, I agree. It's my favorite Yes concert film. And like it's so varied. It's got nice variety. Like you have stuff that this classic lineup of Anderson, House, Squire, White, and Wakeman, the albums they performed on, but you also have stuff like South Side of the Sky, which they had brought back into their repertoire a couple years earlier. And now it's like not even obscure of a song to play anymore. You hear them on later Yes
Yeah.
tours as well. And like you said, digging out Mind Drive, like that felt like a fulfillment of the trajectory that got squashed in the Keys to Ascension era. Like this felt like it was finally fulfilling that whole thing of playing material from that. But this got me thinking, if they had their stuff together and Rick had toured the Keys to Ascension stuff with them in the late 90s, do you think they still would have played Mind Drive on this 35th anniversary tour or something else?
I think they would have played Mind Drive and maybe added one of the I would have loved to hear That Is, or the other song from that Keys. I'm blanking out. Either of those, but I don't know what you think.
Be the One?
Yeah, I would have loved to see either of those as well. What do you think? And then I have a question for you.
Yeah, so if they had toured those songs in the late 90s, I'm not sure if they would have played Mind Drive on this 35th anniversary tour. maybe they would have done something shorter from that period, possibly. Like
But I
maybe
think it's sort of the epic that represents that era.
yeah, that's fair.
But
Yeah.
here's what I was going to ask you. Do you, and this is for everybody, when Steve and I ask each other questions, and I'll get to comments again in a moment. Hey, Mario, because we want to know what you think, but it's not just like you're watching a tennis match. You're part of it. But my
Right.
question to you, Steve, is do you think they would have brought back South Side of the Sky in future tours had they not brought it for the 35th anniversary tour to see how good it is, how well it went, and the reception that it got? Because it's
Well,
killer on that.
yeah, well, they brought that back for the 2002 tour, and that's a good point. Like, it got great reception, and they continued playing it for this. So, yeah, maybe the reception for Mind Drive in the late 90s, like, maybe that would have inspired them to play it on this tour again. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So let's look at some comments. Let's scroll back to, give me a sec, folks. There's a lot of stuff here. Going back to when we were talking about Fragile, Nintendo 64isking says, I think if Rick's synth was used more, that could have been cool for the final version. I don't remember what song we were talking about at the time.
Yeah, that was a bit ago.
Yeah, sorry. Looking at some other comments. There's Mario Borelli, awesome drummer. Tony had his limitations, with all due respect, and I think his limitations were not in his physical playing, but his soundscape. He was more into the bluesy aspects of just playing piano and organ, wasn't really into synths at that time, which is ironic because he eventually got into synths, right? And Bella's asking if I heard Big Big Train. So I interviewed Nick DiVirgilio 2 days ago, I think. So if you look on the drum,
3 days ago, maybe, yeah.
Look on the Drum Talk TV Facebook page.
Yeah.
Look on the Drum Talk TV Facebook page or YouTube channel. Just scroll down a bit and you'll see my interview with Nick, and they're great. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going back and forth. Let's see. I'm just looking. Oh, that's interesting. Nintendo says, I think John Anderson's voice was a little ragged on Tsongas, but I'm glad they had that touring period. I don't know. Was it ragged to you, Steve? Or maybe that's when his voice was just maturing with age a bit, maybe? I mean, you hear him now. He's going to be 80 in October, and he sounds amazing now.
Yeah, so part of it definitely is maturing, but I know, or at least have heard that, like, that tour was very exhausting for John and was part of the reason for the hiatus afterward. Like, that's what I've heard. So, like, I wouldn't be surprised if that may have stood out to people here and there. But
yeah,
just consider, I still think he sounds pretty good on that concert film.
Yeah, I do too. That I just love it. That I think is my favorite piece of a Yes asset. Visually, not counting studio albums. I don't want to get into that argument or mess, but just visually, that's my favorite DVD, if we can call it that, or film. Yes, film.
Yeah, and Nintendo also mentioned Children of Light was played on the Open Your Eyes tour, and yeah, it was.
Yeah,
that was pretty much the only thing that made it to the live set in that period,
other than Open Your Eyes.
Yeah, well, I mean, from the Keys stuff, but yeah.
Oh, gotcha. And so we were going to talk about on Songs from Tsongas, the 35th anniversary tour. I posed to Steve the other day when we were just talking. I said, I just think it's weird that I'm glad they didn't play All Good People. There's enough of that all over the place, with all due respect. So I always like when they don't do that because it left room for something else. But
they did play All Good People.
Oh, yeah. Well, my question is, let's get to that. They played The Meeting, and I thought that was interesting. I would have rather to fill that space with that type of song. I would have rather they played something from Tales that's more of that ilk, or from one of many other albums. I was kind of surprised they played The Meeting, which technically is not a Yes song.
Right. So, yeah, this question of yours kind of got me thinking, because on the track list, Rick does his solo thing for a bit before John comes on
Right.
and they do the meeting. And the solo bit on the track list is titled The Meeting Room. So for years, I have thought that, oh, okay, the meeting room is from Rick's solo career. And I guess they thought it would be fun to merge that with the meeting. But looking into it, it looks like the meeting room might have been made up for this tour or whatever. Or
Yeah, possibly. And I agree what Nintendo is saying. I also love that song very much. I just found it odd that it worked its way into that. But also going back to John's voice, John Costello says, yes, John was sick for the show here in, I think that's Minneapolis, on the last tour, and so was Rick. So who knows? There might have been a little bit of health funk going on. I remember when I saw the Open Your Eyes tour in San Diego with your brother, who was 6 at the time, your older brother. We hung out, met all of them backstage, and Chris was sick. Chris had cough, as he said, and was chewing on lozenges and sucking on lozenges the whole night, but still sounded great. Yeah. So stuff happens. The road can be grueling. People think that, they get paid so much money to play for a couple hours. They don't get paid anything for that. They get paid for being away from home, being away from their families, and dealing with the road and us fans. And that's what they get paid for. They play for free.
Right. So your whole question about why the meeting, it kind of made me think of this other stuff, which maybe is kind of moot. After hearing more and more of
this is Steve's crazy take segment. Go ahead, take it away.
No, but like you said, the meeting is technically not a Yes song,
right?
But is that any stranger than Steve Howe playing something from outside of Yes, like from his solo stuff?
It's not, and I would rather Steve not do that. No offense, Steve Howe. I'd rather he would do Leaves of Green, some other solo stuff from the many Yes solo works he did. Masquerade. There's plenty of Steve Howe solo pieces, acoustic or classical, that he could do instead of his own solo stuff. I'd rather he save that for his own tour. I love the music, but I would like to keep Yes shows, although, if we look at Union, if we look at Yes songs when Rick was relatively new, he's playing a medley of stuff from Six Wives and everything. So I don't know how fair my statement is now that I hear it, but that's one take and just my take. They didn't do a Crimson song with Bill on the Union. So I don't know, where does that question and answer end? I don't know.
Yeah, and I think I could kind of see the reasoning for doing the meeting in that ABWH, it was not made or released as a Yes album. It was not intended as one, but it retroactively kind of became part of the catalog after the Union thing.
Yeah.
And even though it's not a Yes album, it was a catalyst for a huge moment in history in Yes with the whole Union thing. So yeah, I can kind of see how maybe working in an acknowledgement of that might have been the train of thought, but it also got me wondering, would it have been the meeting feels very much like a John and Rick thing. I think maybe it would have felt more off the wall, but still kind of cool if they had done Brother of Mine or Order of the Universe or something like that, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Or they could have done From the Balcony, just him and Steve. But here's a question for everybody. It always bugged me that they didn't call it ABWHL. It bothers me that Tony Levin was left off of that because his contributions on that album are huge. And it's not like he's some sideman that no one's heard of. He was Bill Bruford's rhythm partner for years and years after Jeff Berlin. So here's the question. If they did give the band Tony Levin's name credit, would they have done the meeting? And would that album have been interwoven retroactively into the Yes catalog?
Yeah, that also kind of got me wondering, just now, if Tony Levin's name had been in the band's name, would they have allowed two bassists on the
I
Union
thought of
tour.
that for a moment too, but I think being that he was only on one album, no, for the same reason Patrick wasn't there. He was on one album, and et cetera, et cetera. We can keep going with that,
Right.
but I just think
but
that's a curious thing.
yeah, but definitely shout out to Tony Levin for his contributions, and also Jimmy Hahn for the Union stuff. His birthday is coming up next week as well. And
Who?
Jimmy
Just
Hahn.
kidding. I'm kidding. So let's
Yeah.
go back to birthdays, and there's some great comments there. Thanks everybody for chiming in. What here? Just one more for now. John Costello says yes, should do new Mind Drive medley with Machine Messiah and Minus the Man.
Oh, that
Wow,
would be
that's
amazing.
the 3M medley, they could call it. I love that. Or more than three, actually. 1, 2, 3, 4. The 5M medley, 6 if you
Yeah.
count the word medley.
Yeah.
That's pretty creative, John. Good on you for that. But let's get back to birthdays.
Yeah. But to close out the meeting thing, I do kind of see how like maybe they could have done like or maybe Rick could have done a piano medley of Yes stuff. And he's doing a medley of sorts on his current tour, Yes Sonata, which I haven't looked too deeply into because I kind of want to be surprised when hopefully like he eventually comes to the West Coast when more dates get added. But yeah, I can kind of see like you're thinking on all that.
I saw Rick solo with a band in like 1959. Let me think. When was this? This was
1959.
He was at the Beverly Theater with his band. He had 2 keyboard rigs at each end of the stage, and this was like, I think I was like maybe 20, so that would have been 1983. I don't remember the album tour, but I've never seen him on any of his solo tours where it's just him. But yeah, let's go to the next birthday.
Yeah, and apparently Rick's gonna have like a nice lazy dog day tomorrow, so very much well deserved for his birthday. But yeah. So Jay Schellen's birthday. So obviously he's been drumming with Yes for about 8 years now. You know, he was helping Alan for a bit.
At one capacity or another. Yeah.
Yeah, I know Dylan Howe was with them for a tour, and then they went back to Jay, and he's been on the last couple of Yes albums. He did some percussion on The Quest, and he was a drummer for Mirror to the Sky.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on his contributions in general and Yes, and on Mirror to the Sky, and how does Mirror to the Sky hold up for you a year later, because it's turning a year old in a couple days?
I know that's crazy.
Yeah.
Three things on that. It still holds up for me. I do like the album, and I think Jay is a great drummer, and I do like that it has his sound, his stamp on it without deviating. It's not the deviation from Bill to Alan, which was a huge difference in styles that happened to work, but it's a somewhat deviation from Alan to Jay, with Jay adding some percussive sounds that I've never heard on a Yes album before. Little things like chimes and a little different splash sound, and you know, he's playing with rototoms above his front mounted rack toms, and you know, he's definitely putting his sound as a drummer and percussionist on Yes, which I like, and he should, and it's great, and I think it works.
Yeah, I honestly forget that he's in his 60s because he has so much energy when he plays with them, and you know, he fits in with them so well with a band. Mirror to the Sky.
Like my age or older?
He's turning 64.
Okay, so he's
3 years older than you. Yeah. So his contributions on Mirror to the Sky, like, I think are really great. I can imagine him like working with the band as I listen to it. I do kind of wonder. I don't know if anyone else has their own moment in mind, but
what? Say that again.
Has like their, well, I'll explain right now. So with these drummers, I feel like they each have moments that, you know, you think about the drummers on Yes albums and you're like, oh, I think this is like one of their signature moments. And Jay plays really great on Mirror to the Sky, but I think maybe I need to listen more. But off the top of my head, I can't think of like a signature moment from him. I think of him and the band working together really great as I listen to the music. But
Yeah, I agree.
yeah.
That's fair. And it's okay. Totally okay too.
Yeah. So I do kind of wonder if maybe some moments like that might feel more upfront on the next Yes album whenever that comes out. I saw a rumor that it might not come out until next year, perhaps. But hey, as long as they take enough time that they need for it, I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, and here's a nod to someone's favorite work by Jay Luminosity. I agree. That's some good work on that.
Yeah. I think the album still holds up really well. I've said before that, and I'm one of the outliers here, that I think I prefer the Quest slightly over Mirror to the Sky.
Really? I'm the opposite.
Yeah. But Mirror to the Sky has definitely resonated with a bunch of people, and I think it's a great step in the direction that they're going.
Yeah.
And I had a thought. What was it? So one of the early criticisms for Mirror to the Sky, and it's pretty much what some of the people say with other albums in general, but some people were saying that some of the stuff on it doesn't feel memorable enough. And I know everyone takes in things differently, but I personally don't feel that way. Like there's a bunch of things on Mirror to the Sky that are very memorable to me after just a couple listens, and even after going months without listening to the song, I still recall like some really great moments. Like it still sticks with me. Whenever I put on my earbuds and it says they're connected, I think of the song All Connected. So to me, like it's still very memorable. And I know you've said like this thing about my memory being great. It's not always great. I think I don't want people to get like the wrong idea.
Yeah,
like it does take me a couple listens to take everything in. And I think it still sticks even after just like a couple listens, and I've listened more and more since then.
Cool. Let me pop a couple of comments up. This is a pretty strong statement from Nintendo 64. Isking Mirror is my favorite Yes album since 90125. Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's a big statement. But I love this one from John Costello, and I'm getting invaded by a cat. Yes should do shellfish medley rather than whitefish. That's hilarious and apropos. I love that. We should text Billy and tell him.
Shellfish. That's a fun.
I wonder I don't know what it would be, but I love that. They should come up with their own piece. That is really cool. Great one.
Yeah. Well, I'm kind of wondering now if like Billy has a nickname. Like, yeah, it's something to think about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and John Costello also says the song Mirror to the Sky needs to be done live. I agree. They need to perform more of the album live. Like, I know that they are trying to give people the classics that they remember and enjoy hearing, but I've always said that Yes should take more chances showcasing the newer stuff and really showing how proud they are of the newer stuff.
Yeah, look what Gilly says.
Oh yeah, Mirror to the Sky is my favorite album since Drama. Wow, that's a little further back. Yeah,
it's my favorite since Close to the. No, I'm kidding. But that's cool. That's really interesting because, we've talked about a lot. People have different musical sensibilities, and could be a whole discussion to sit around a table and talk about. Well, what is it about all those albums in between that just didn't resonate? Like, what's the connection there? Drama certainly has a whole different sound from everything that came before it. And it might have been the first album that had the biggest departure from anything before it. I think we've talked about that before.
Yeah.
It was the biggest leap in a different direction, even more so to Fragile. It was to go from Tormato to that was like, what?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I think Jay's been doing great with the band, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he does with them on the next album. And before we close out, I see we got more comments coming in, but there are also a few comments I forgot to read from a post earlier about songs from Tsongas.
Oh, go
Um,
ahead.
yeah, Robert Toms remembers being there at the concert and hanging out with Damian Anderson before the show, John Anderson's
Oh,
son.
cool.
Jeremiah Lafoyette says, "Love this live video." Gilly Good News said, "Sweet dreams, deep track, fun and bouncy." Tony Warren mentions the end of Southside the Sky when Rick and Steve are going back and forth. Gets me
Love
every
that.
time. Yeah, that's epic. Austin Owen says, "My favorite part as well." And on this recent rewatch of songs from Tsongas, I actually noticed a young Joe Cass and his dad Mike were
Oh,
sitting
really?
the front row. Yeah, I saw them like 21 minutes in during your favorite song, "All Good People."
Oh, that's hilarious. So how
Yeah,
old
and
was Joe?
I think he would have been like 17 or something. It was really wild because this was also the day after I watched a Star Wars fan documentary and recognized a few familiar faces I knew in real life there as well.
That's hilarious. Look at this one. How about this? Ready? I'll let
Yeah.
you read it. I'll put it up.
Okay, so John Costello says, "Mirror to the Sky is my favorite since The Quest." Yeah, I was kind of gonna say that too, which because The Quest I prefer slightly over Mirror to the Sky, but yeah.
That's funny. And John's asking Damien why no solo albums. Doesn't Damien have a solo album or two?
Not that I'm aware of. I know that he did, the remix thing, Close to the Hype. It was like it was
Oh,
kind of
that's what I'm thinking of then.
it was kind of an original song that he released as a single, but it also included his dad singing "Close to the Edge Down by the River" like in the background. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was in the 90s. So yeah, I don't know if he's done anything else recently, but
And he just might not be musical. He might not be his thing.
well, I think he is into music, but
Well, you are too, but you're not a musician, and
well, I
just 'cause
meant in
you
terms of working on music.
okay.
I don't know. I vaguely remember hearing something a little while ago, but I don't have like the details in front of me, so I don't know.
Okay.
But yeah, I do
Cool.
love Circus of Heaven.
Yeah, his work on that is amazing.
Yeah. No, but I do unironically enjoy Circus of Heaven. I know it gets a lot of flack in the Yes fandom.
I don't know why. I love that song. And
Yeah.
to see it live on the Tormato tour was so cool. And what they did with the lighting during his section and to hear his voice throughout the LA Forum, it was great. It was totally Yes.
Right.
I just don't understand what people bitch about sometimes.
Right.
But then again, Enja says that about me. That's my wife, for those who don't know.
Right.
Cool. Anything else? I mean, that's a month packed of some anniversaries, reissues, birthdays.
Yeah, I think we got it all. Jeffrey Mason says Circus of Heaven is a brilliant song. John Costello also said Joe Cass must have a TARDIS, which is a time machine from Doctor Who. And funny enough, I'm like wearing my Doctor Who shirt like right now.
You guys talk before the show or something? Like that's your
No,
cue?
we
That's hilarious. That's so funny.
Yeah. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, everyone. And
Yeah, and thanks for being so engaging. We really appreciate it. That's why we do this.
And again, next week, the 26th, I believe, is the anniversary of Alan White's passing. And, can't say enough how great his contributions are to the Yes discography. I mean, he was there for a huge majority of it. And,
to talk about that, just a little bit of it. Yeah, he's one of my biggest influences. I had the honor of knowing him personally since 1989. On Saturday, the 25th, I'm playing my second year in a row contribution to Play for Chris, which also includes Alan and Mr.
Peter
Banks
Banks,
as well.
yeah.
Yep. And we interviewed Miguel about this, and it was during that show that it came to me what my theme is going to be. My theme the previous year was that I took, I think, 19 pieces of Yes songs, and I played. My God, a dog farted, I might die. I played Jesus, Schnoodles. I played what were we talking about? Oh, I played like 5 to 7 seconds of 19 pieces. This time I'm doing a medley from one special album where I'm going to play very short different sections. And that was extremely challenging because I knew all those songs inside and out, but it was a whole different thing when I edited the pieces together as one thing. Then I had to learn it as that. And I suspect I'll be just as challenged this time, but I'm really looking forward to it. I won't reveal what the album is, but I'm looking forward to that. It's a great way to celebrate those three guys. And I think I'm also recording something. Isn't there a day, Steve, where I'm recording something
yeah,
for
I know.
Alan's tribute?
Yeah, his birthday is next month, so I think we were thinking of doing something around.
That's right. And I'm going to be gone on his birthday, so I'm recording it before that for you to air it. That's right. I got it. I'm straight. So I'll take yeah. Well, let me just say this real quick. I'll take suggestions, folks, if you want to write, just to make sure we find it and it doesn't get lost in comments somewhere. If you want to write yesshiftpodcast@gmail.com with suggestions of what you'd like to see me play to for Alan's birthday, and then Steve will compile all those, and that'd be great. I would love some help on that because the amazing body of work Alan had with Yes for almost 50 years, 49 years is just amazing. And I love all of it and can play all of it. Not as well as Alan, of course, but hey, I'll play to it, whether it's Sound Chaser or From the Balcony. Wait, there's no percussion in From the Balcony. So I'll just sit and we'll listen to it together. But back to you, Steve.
Yeah, and it was fun, watching songs from Tsongas again and seeing like his playing on there. It was so fun. Did I send you a screenshot with the photos? I can't remember if I did.
A screenshot of what?
Of Alan playing in that concert? Or
oh, you did. I'm sorry. I do have that. One moment, folks. Okay. And I think someone's wrong button. There we go. I'm sorry. Here we go. There we go. There's my hero.
Oh yeah. It might look kind of blurry because of it looks better now. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it just a lot of fun seeing him in these concerts that we get to rewatch and seeing how into it he gets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll say this again when I do the tribute, but just such a humble guy. He's right there in the blue shirt. If you want to see a funny picture of me, this is Alan in 1990 when Steve's brother Alex was born, who I'm holding. That baby has grown. He's like 5'9", 240 now. And that's me, believe it or not, with just a little bit of hair. But Alan was 42 there. I was 28, 29. And I look forward to these tributes. I do them for musicians who were huge influences on me, not just drummers. I always do a Keith Emerson tribute because of what his music meant to me, and a few others. So I'm really looking forward to paying homage to just one of the best musicians in my musical universe.
Yeah, for sure. So again, thanks for tuning in, everyone. Yep. It's great that we have these musicians to talk about and that their work continues to persist, all these years later as we listen to them.
And we love that people listen to us on the podcast version at anchor.fm/Yesshift. But the benefit of watching us on Facebook or YouTube is all the visuals that we show. The benefit of listening to us as well is that there's a donate button, and I need new reading glasses. So go ahead and drop your Hunsky there. You can also follow us at youtube.com at Yesshift and facebook.com/Yesshift. Am I missing anything?
No, I think we covered everything.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Thank you, everybody, so much. And I agree with Nintendo. Long may Yes continue. And yes, it is still Yes. Thanks, everybody.
Yes.